Endurance running makes bad mechanics a habit. Now, this is a really cool picture because you see what distance runners look like. First of all, T-Rex arms. They hardly even move their arms. There's long ground contacts. If you measured the angles between their thighs, there are no big splits. There's a very slow angular velocity. The back leg becomes the front leg very slowly. There's no snap because there's no stretch reflex. Nobody is twitchy. Matter of fact, this type of stuff runs the twitchiness out of you. I often say that, when a great 800-meter guy goes to college and a selfish cross-country coach wants to turn him into a 5-miler first, that they'll run the cat right out of him. They just run the cat out of him. Guys are long in the back, and they're not big in the front. Let's just say that none of these silhouettes look anything like Carl Lewis or Marcellus Moore. Now, this is Dr. Ken Clark in his younger days when he was working at a lab at SMU with Dr. Peter Weyand. And the guy on the left is a sprinter and the guy on the right is not. And you see, a huge difference in their backside. You can't see the front side here because this is with the foot coming down, but you see that really big, pronounced backside stuff with the guy on the right, the picture on the right. This is somebody I remote train. This is how lacrosse athletes look. This is how baseball players look. They're bent. Their backside is really bad. Their ground, you can tell the ground contact here is not very forcible. This is just, a totally untrained sprinter. Good athlete, untrained sprinter. This is a guy I remote train. He's in his 30s, big, strong dude, and Hunter Charneski is his name. But, Hunter does a lot of things right. He has a big frontside split. I really like that. Another thing that good sprinters do is their calf meets their hamstring when the other leg is posted up. And what that is that's a short lever that's quick to pop through. This is somebody this guy actually won some race and he's proud of it, and he sent me the video, and so I got a still frame. This is the ultimate butt kick, showing the bottoms of your spikes to the sky. I just don't know how people can be fast doing this. Now you say, well, he won the race, didn't he? Yeah, but man, teenagers, you gotta keep working with them to run as correctly as possible. Now, once again, like guys at Altus can say, well, I wouldn't change Michael Johnson. Well, okay, I wouldn't either. But, for somebody win a race running 11, 8, and 100 who looks like this, you got to get him fixed. Now, this guy, he wasn't slow. He ran 10:48 and 100. But look how long he is in the back. Oh, my God. And the guy, it looks like a good athlete to his right. And look at him showing his soles to Jesus, the soles of his shoes to Jesus. And, so what do you do when guys are like this? Well, I think you need to fast march. When you're fast marching, you have no backside. And then you can put wickets out like 3 feet and just fast march over the wickets. And then extend the wickets to like 5 feet. Remember, our generic number is 6. If we go 6.5 feet, I have guys wear spikes because you have to be really, really fast. And then you can move it to 6 feet wickets, but you need a video. You need a video, and you need to really, really work at being front side. If the backside stuff returns, you go right back to fast march. And it takes a lot of patience to be a sprint coach, because the work that you do today does not pay off tomorrow. I call it my 666 theory. We're not what we did yesterday. We're what we did for the last 6 weeks, or last 6 months, or last 6 years. Well, this guy's probably done this for the last 6 years. So that's why he's doing it now. But man, if teenagers aren't young enough to try to help and change, who is? I mean, there are no good coaches with little kids. Most high school kids, they're lucky if they see their first good coach as a teenager. So you just got to get this fixed. This 11-year-old I remote trained, looks great. He's going to be a good athlete, elbow to the sky, big split, stretch, reflex is going to happen. And then you see a couple weird things happen. First of all, he's showing his soul to Jesus. Get it? Soles of your feet. So anyway, that's that foot pointing to the sky is something that we need to work at. And then also, I guess we'll see another picture of that in a minute. Here's Marcellus in the same position, basically, except for his knee is already rocketing through. He had a really, really quick, twitchy back leg. You see great stiffness. He's not all bent up like an accordion. He's not showing his soles to Jesus. His tricep is contracted there because that back arm is really pulling through. Once that back arm goes to the sky, it's going to snap forward. So here's the next picture from that 11-year-old, and here's the old accordion collapse. And you say, well, how do you fix that? I say, gee, you just gotta try to stay tall and get stronger. 11-year-olds may not be strong enough, but man, you can definitely just cue to stay tall, and it may correct a lot of this stuff. Matter of fact, stiffness is really important. The elites will collapse less than 2 centimeters throughout the race. So, we're talking about 2 centimeters, like that's less than an inch of collapse. You compare that. Is that less than an inch of collapse? Shoot, if you add it all up, that's probably 5 or 6 inches of collapse there. Once again, Marcellus, you see remember I said that the calf comes up to meet the hamstring, and that creates a short and fast lever coming through. Obviously, you don't want to have a braking effect by having the leg land way out in front of the body like the guy on the left. And you definitely don't want to have that forward lean with your soles of your spikes showing to Jesus here. So this is pretty obvious, but obviously, I mean, you're going to see a lot of this, especially with guys that have never been coached. So you do not want braking action. And this braking action, it needs to be noted. Well, oftentimes when that contracted hamstring is being lengthened is when you have problems. By the way, to prevent hamstring injuries, one of the best things you can do is start sprinting, and make sprinting into something you do as a habit. You inoculate yourself from high-speed injuries when you do that. But the average sports team in America, even the average track team in America, practices in third gear and then tries to compete in fifth gear. Typically, if you practice in third gear, you'll never find fifth gear. And even when you're in fourth gear, you may pull a hamstring because you're just not accustomed to the mechanics involved in running fast. Now, let's talk a little bit about the frontal plane hip hike. Not everybody does this, but I think this is interesting. Marcellus here is wearing a white t-shirt, so you'll see the oscillation between his left and right shoulder. He will actually pick his right shoulder up just a little bit to help with his knee hike of his right side. I'll show you that again. Here is a still frame from Marcellus's previous video. You can see his left shoulder is hiked upward, which is helping him a little bit hike his left hip and his left knee. Now, the thing that you're not seeing here is a contraction of the glute, not the glute maximus, but the glute medius. The glute medius on our left side, his right, is contracted here, helping him to squeeze that side of his body, which also helps with that hip going upward. Bolt here is doing the same thing. He has a hip hike going on with his right hip. His left glute medius is contracting, and he's also getting a little bit of help by those oscillating shoulders. So his shoulder is moved up slightly, which all of that really allows him to get upward on that right side. Now, the first two pictures here, obviously, good stiffness. The second picture, bad stiffness. We don't want to be bent. Also, in the first picture, you see a very fast knee coming through. When you're in an upright post, like that guy is on the left, and the knee is 14 inches past his post knee, that means you got a really fast leg. Really fast leg. Now, the guy in the middle is much more like a guy that's never been trained, lacrosse, rugby, baseball, football, whatever. And that's why sprint training is so important. And then the person on the right is a whole different animal. It is the exact opposite of these two things. Instead of getting that good glute med on her left side or his left side, they're getting nothing. And that's why there's a tilt going on. And that tilt is really, really awful. That's a total collapse. We would want that person's right side to be upward. Now, with Bolt and with Marcellus, that shoulder on the right side would pop up just a little bit. The glute med on the left would contract, and they would get that knee up, and that collapse would not happen. So this is a person that Chris Korfis worked with, and this is a distance runner that, as bad as the collapse was on the left, he was still able to run like 4:15 in the mile. An outstanding runner, but an outstanding runner does not mean they're running with good mechanics. Really good athletes have all kinds of ways to cheat it. And this guy was, cheating fate here. Like no way should he have been a great runner. But when Chris fixed him on the right side, that's just amazing. There's hardly any collapse at all on the right side. And the way Chris fixed it was that Chris got this guy to contract his right side glute med, which allowed him to not collapse, which allowed him to not cross over. So let's let Chris take this away here and talk about his go-to. I've watched him do this with everyone for about 12 years now.
You're going to take an exercise ball, you're going to put it on your hip, you're going to put the ball on the hip and on the wall, you're going to stand on your outside foot, your toes will be up, and you will hike your hip up. So you're going to just start with getting a hip hike, going up and down. When you get better at it, we can turn our foot out, toes up, weight on the ball, your big toe, and on your heel. You're going to lift up from this point, just using hip, and then you can turn your foot in and do the same. So we want to work our foot at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock. When we get better, and that feels strong, we're going to put an ankle bend and then lift up. Again, now you're going to feel it in your calf and bring your knee up. Again, you can change your foot positions. And then to make it even harder, pelvis, by the way, our pelvis can be up the whole time, up and drive up on the big toe. The whole time we're squishing the ball into the wall.
Now, Chris's left glute med is what is contracting to help him with the hike of his right knee. And going back to what we saw Marcellus doing, was not only was that happening, but also he got a little cheat going on from his right shoulder. Here is Noah Lyles doing the exact same thing, where the glute med on the left is helping that right leg hike higher.